The twin suns of Valora Prime burned high in the sky, casting golden light over the crowded alien marketplace. The air was filled with the smell of sizzling street food, the chatter of traders, and the hum of hovering cargo drones. People from 100 different worlds moved through the streets, their colorful clothes and strange shapes creating a living rainbow. Ethan, a human engineer from Earth, walked slowly through the marketplace. His work as a ship repairman had brought him to many worlds, but Valora Prime always amazed him. Here, everything felt alive. The buildings seemed to grow like trees. The air shimmered with alien music, and the vendors called out in languages Ethan could barely understand. He smiled to himself, enjoying the moment. Then, a sudden scream cut through the noise. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound, and he saw her, a young alien girl stumbling through the crowd. Her skin was pale blue with faint silver patterns, and her bright violet eyes were wide with panic. She clutched at her throat. Gasping for breath, her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the stone street. For a moment, no one moved. The crowd stepped back, murmuring in fear. Ethan could hear the whispers. "Poison gas. It's deadly. Don't go near her." The traders covered their faces with cloth, and parents pulled their children away. A strange green mist curled around the girl's body, thin and shifting. Ethan's heart pounded. Every instinct told him to stay back, but something inside pushed him forward. He ran to her side, kneeling down. Her breathing was shallow. Her lips trembling, she looked at him with desperate eyes and whispered one word, "Trap," before her eyelids fluttered shut. Ethan's skin prickled. Poison gas. That's what they said, but as he inhaled, nothing happened. No burning in his throat, no dizziness, no pain. He frowned, confused. The alien girl was dying. Yet the poison had no effect on him. Around them, the crowd kept their distance, watching like they were witnessing a slow execution. "Hang on," Ethan muttered, sliding his arms under her. She was light, far too light for someone her size. He lifted her and stood up. The crowd gasped. Some shouted at him to drop her. Others warned that the gas would kill them both. But Ethan ignored them. His only thought was getting her to safety. As he carried her, Ethan noticed movement on the rooftops. A shadow, someone watching him. The figure shifted and then vanished. Ethan's gut tightened. Whoever did this was still here. He quickened his pace, weaving through narrow alleys. To avoid the main streets, he needed help, but he couldn't trust the local authorities. Humans on Valora Prime were often treated with suspicion. And if someone had set this trap for her, they might have allies everywhere. The girl stirred in his arms. Her breathing was ragged, and strange blue veins were spreading across her neck. "Stay with me," Ethan said quietly. His boots splashed through puddles left by the morning rain. The alleys twisted and turned like a maze. Every now and then, he glanced over his shoulder, certain that someone was following. Finally, he ducked into an abandoned storage room. The lights were broken, and the air smelled of rust and old wood. He laid her down gently on a stack of cloth, pulling a small med kit from his belt. He worked quickly, scanning her with a portable device. The readout showed a toxin, complex, engineered, and extremely deadly to her species. Ethan gritted his teeth. He had never seen anything like it. But there was one strange thing in the data. Human biology showed complete resistance to the toxin. He didn't know why, but right now it meant he could handle her without danger. Outside, a faint sound echoed. Footsteps, slow and careful. Ethan's pulse quickened. Someone was coming. He quickly adjusted the air filter in the room, sealing the door as best as he could. He didn't know if it would stop whoever was out there, but it might give him a few seconds. The girl's eyelids fluttered open. Her voice was weak. "They want me dead," she whispered. Ethan leaned closer. "Who?" She tried to speak again, but her breath caught. Her eyes rolled back, and she fell unconscious once more. Ethan sat still for a moment. His mind raced. If she was the target of an assassination, then he had just made himself part of the story. He could leave her and walk away, let the authorities deal with it. But something told him that if he did, she wouldn't survive the next hour. Outside, the footsteps stopped. Silence filled the air. Then, a slow metallic knock sounded against the door. Once, twice, 3 times, Ethan's eyes narrowed. He stood, gripping a small plasma tool in his hand. The door creaked slightly under pressure from the other side. Whoever it was, they weren't knocking to be polite. The girl lay still, her breathing shallow. Ethan knew one thing for certain. If he wanted answers, he'd have to keep her alive, and if he wanted to keep her alive, he'd have to face whatever was waiting outside. He took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next. Asterisk. The race against time. The metallic knocking grew louder, echoing through the small storage room. Ethan's grip tightened on the plasma tool. His eyes flicked to the alien girl lying on the cloth stack. She was barely breathing, the strange blue veins spreading further down her neck. Time was running out for her, and whoever was outside wasn't here to help. A shadow slipped under the doorframe as the figure outside moved. Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't fight and protect her at the same time. He needed to move now. He lifted her back into his arms, her head resting limply against his chest, and scanned the room for another way out. In the corner, half hidden under a pile of broken crates, he saw a narrow maintenance hatch. It was small, but just big enough for him to crawl through. With one last glance at the door, Ethan kicked the crates aside and shoved the hatch open. The smell of oil and metal rushed out, the scent of the old utility tunnels that ran beneath the city. The moment he slipped inside and shut the hatch, the storage room door slammed open behind him. Heavy boots stomped inside, and a muffled voice cursed. Ethan crawled forward, the girl's weight slowing him, but adrenaline kept him moving. The tunnels were dimly lit by flickering strips of light along the ceiling. The hum of machinery echoed through the narrow space. Ethan's boots splashed in shallow puddles as he hurried. Every now and then, he heard faint clangs from above. Whoever was after them was tracking his movement. He needed medical help for her. Fast, but alien hospitals would never admit. A human carrying an unconscious alien girl poisoned by a rare and dangerous toxin. Not without questioning him first, and those questions would waste precious minutes she didn't have. Ethan's mind jumped to one possibility. Kalen, a half-human, half-Tauren medic who lived in the outer districts. Kalen owed him a favor from years back when Ethan had repaired his shuttle for free. If anyone could keep this quiet and help her, it was him. Ethan adjusted his grip on her and pushed deeper into the tunnels. He could feel her shallow breaths against his chest, each one weaker than the last. "Stay with me," he muttered under his breath. His heart pounded, not from running, but from fear that he might already be too late. A sudden hiss of steam burst from a nearby pipe, making him flinch. For a moment, he thought it was just the aging tunnel system, until he saw movement ahead. 2 figures in dark armor stepped out from the shadows. Their visors reflected the dim light, and strange alien symbols glowed faintly on their chest plates. One raised a hand pointing directly at Ethan. "Hand her over." The voice was cold, mechanical. Ethan's grip on the girl tightened. "Not a chance," he replied. The armored figures moved forward, their boots ringing against the metal floor. Ethan's eyes darted around, spotting an access ladder to his left. Without hesitation, he dashed for it, climbing quickly with the girl in one arm. The soldiers shouted behind him, but the narrow space slowed them down. At the top, Ethan emerged into a service corridor. He didn't stop, sprinting through twisting halls until he found a side exit leading to the outer districts. The bright lights of the main city faded behind him, replaced by the dim glow of neon signs and the low hum of old power lines. Callan's clinic was hidden in a rusted building at the edge of the district. Ethan pounded on the metal door. The small viewport slid open, revealing Kellen's sharp green eyes. "Ethan?" the medic said, surprise clear in his voice. Then his gaze dropped to the girl in Ethan's arms, and his expression turned grim. "Get inside now." The door slammed shut behind them. Kalen cleared a table and gestured for Ethan to lay her down. His hands moved quickly, scanning her with advanced equipment that hummed softly. "This is bad," Kalen muttered. "This toxin. It's military grade, designed to target her species' bloodline. There's no known cure here." Ethan leaned in. "But there's a cure somewhere?" Kalen hesitated, glancing at him. "Maybe. But it's not on this planet. It's locked inside the medical archives on Orbital Station K7. Before Ethan could respond, a faint beeping echoed from Kalen's console. He turned to see a red warning flashing, "Incoming trace signal." "They found you," Kalen said, his voice tense. "You don't have much time." Ethan looked at the unconscious girl, then back at Kalen. "Then I'd better move fast," he said, his jaw set, determination burning in his eyes. The race against time had just begun. Secrets in the lab. The rain fell in silver sheets over Valora Prime's outer districts. The neon lights of the city blurred in the wet streets as Ethan moved quickly through the shadows. His jacket clung to him, soaked, but he didn't slow down. Kalen's words still echoed in his mind. The cure was on Orbital Station K7. But to get it, he needed more than just determination. He needed proof. Kalen had given him a lead. An abandoned research facility on the edge of the city once worked with the orbital station. If the rumors were true, they had samples of every toxin they ever designed, and maybe even classified data on human immunity. It was dangerous. The place was under corporate lock and patrolled by security drones, but it was his only chance. Ethan reached the facility just past midnight. Its tall black walls rose against the fog, and broken security cameras hung like dead eyes from the roof. He crouched low, scanning for movement. A faint red light swept across the main gate. A motion sensor. He waited until it turned away before slipping through a rusted service entrance at the side. Inside, the air was cold and smelled faintly of metal and chemicals. His footsteps echoed on the empty floor. The hallway stretched into darkness, lit only by the flicker of dying overhead lamps. Somewhere deep inside, machinery hummed like a sleeping beast. He found the main lab behind a reinforced door. Using his plasma tool, he cut through the lock. The door slid open with a groan, revealing rows of glass tanks, shelves of sealed vials, and holoscreens frozen on old data. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Ethan stepped inside and began searching. His eyes scanned labels until one made his breath catch. VX47, neurotoxin, royal genome target. It was the same poison in the alien girl's blood. He quickly activated the nearby console, pulling up files. What he saw made his stomach twist. The toxin wasn't just made to kill her species. It had been designed with one specific genetic signature in mind, hers. The data showed her name and alien script, her family records, even her blood type. This wasn't a random attack, it was an assassination order written in science. Then he saw something stranger. A separate file marked immunity, human subjects. His fingers flew across the console, opening it. The file contained old experiments, some over 50 years ago, testing the effects of alien bioweapons on human prisoners. The result was the same every time: complete resistance to several engineered toxins. One entry stood out. It mentioned a human ancestor who had been on Valora Prime decades earlier. This ancestor's blood sample was almost identical to Ethan's own. His heart raced. Was this just chance, or was his presence here part of something much bigger? Before he could think further, the console beeped. Unauthorized access detected. The sound of mechanical whirring filled the air. Ethan turned to see 3 security drones sliding from hidden panels in the walls. Their optical sensors glowed bright red, and their weapons locked onto him. He grabbed the nearest vial of the neurotoxin, slipping it into a secure case in his bag. The drones moved in, firing stun blasts that crackled through the air. Ethan dove behind a table, the shots sizzling against the metal. He dashed toward the emergency exit, weaving between shelves. The heavy thud of the drone's pursuit echoed behind him. The exit was a tall metal hatch with a manual release. He yanked it open and burst out into the rain. The cold night air hit him like a shock. He sprinted across a narrow bridge connecting the lab to a maintenance tower. Behind him, the drones floated into the open, their lights cutting through the mist. Ethan reached the tower and slid inside. Panting, he glanced at the secure case in his hand. Inside was the proof, the data and the toxin sample, enough to confirm the conspiracy. But it also made him a bigger target than ever, somewhere far away in the city. The alien girl was still unconscious in Kellen's care. And now Ethan knew the truth. The poison was made only for her, and the key to saving her life might lie in his own blood. But the question that burned in his mind was darker. If someone had known humans were immune all along, then maybe saving her wasn't their only plan. Maybe they needed him too. The chase through the sky waste. Rain had stopped, but the city still glistened under the glow of neon lights. Ethan moved fast through the narrow service corridors, the secure case clutched tightly in his hand. The air was heavy with the scent of wet metal. Somewhere behind him, the faint hum of security drones grew louder. He emerged onto a high platform overlooking the city's vast network of skyways. Massive streams of hovercrafts roared past in glowing lanes of blue and orange light. The air shimmered with energy fields that kept the traffic moving at dangerous speeds. Ethan's eyes scanned the lanes, looking for a way out. A sleek cargo skimmer was docked nearby, its pilot nowhere in sight. Without hesitation, Ethan sprinted toward it, leapt into the cockpit, and powered it up. The engine purred to life, and the hovercraft lifted smoothly into the air. As soon as he merged into the main skyway, the red glare of the drones appeared in the mirrors. They were closing in fast. He pushed the throttle forward, weaving between heavy transports and flashing advertisement boards that floated in midair. Rainwater still clung to the skyway rails, spraying in silver arcs as he cut sharp turns. The drones fired stun bursts that sizzled past his windshield. Each missed shot lit up the night like a brief explosion. A warning light flashed on his console. Lock-on detected. He swerved hard, diving under a slow-moving freight hauler. The drones followed, relentless. Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't lead them back to Kellen's clinic, not with the girl there. He had to shake them off here. The skyway split ahead, one lane leading into the open night above the ocean, the other spiraling into the crowded heart of the city. Ethan took the city lane, knowing that tight turns and dense traffic might give him an advantage. The hovercraft's engine roared as he skimmed just inches from glowing billboards. The smell of ozone filled the cockpit as another stun bolt grazed the side. A sudden voice crackled through the comm system. "Ethan?" It was Lyra, weak but conscious. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Where are you?" Ethan kept his eyes on the traffic. "Still running, but I've got something. Proof they're after you, and maybe a way to cure you." She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her words sent a chill down his spine. "They won't stop, Ethan. It's not just about me, it's about you too." Before he could ask what she meant, a drone swooped overhead, blocking his path. He yanked the controls sideways, sending the hovercraft into a narrow service tunnel that cut through the city's mid-levels. The tunnel walls blurred around him, lights flashing like strobe beams. The sound of the pursuing drones echoed off the metal, growing louder. Up ahead, the tunnel ended in a massive open platform. Dozens of small crafts parked in neat rows. A group of workers turned to look as Ethan burst in, but before they could react, the drones followed, spraying stun fire that shattered glass panels and sent sparks raining down. Ethan slid the hovercraft to a stop, leapt out, and sprinted toward a maintenance elevator at the far side of the platform. He could hear the drones shifting to ground mode, their legs unfolding as they crawled after him like mechanical predators. The elevator doors slid open just as he reached them. He dove inside, hitting the control for the upper skyway. The doors closed, cutting off the sight of the drones, but not the sound of their claws scraping against the floor. When the elevator opened again, Ethan stepped out into the highest level of the city. The wind hit him hard, carrying the smell of the ocean, and the faint hum of the great orbital lifts in the distance. His eyes locked on one, the massive beam of light reaching up to the night sky, connecting Velora Prime to Orbital Station K7. That was his way out. But reaching it meant crossing open airspace where his enemies would have a clear shot. Ethan tightened his grip on the secure case. His jaw set, and he whispered to himself, "One last run," before stepping toward the waiting skyway. The Betrayal, the high-level skyway, was almost empty at this hour. Ethan guided the hovercraft toward the base of the orbital lift, its great column of light stabbing into the night sky like a spear of pure energy. The hum of the power conduits vibrated in the air, and the ocean below shimmered in its glow as he approached. A secure channel opened on his comm system. The face of Kalen appeared, his expression urgent. "Ethan, you need to come back," he said quickly. "It's not safe to board the lift right now. I've arranged a safe house instead." Ethan frowned. "What happened?" Kalen avoided his gaze for a moment. "The lift security has been compromised. There's a kill order on you and the girl. They'll be waiting at the station if you go up." It sounded reasonable, but something in Kellen's voice didn't sit right with Ethan. Still, he couldn't risk the girl's life on suspicion alone. He turned the hovercraft around, heading for the coordinates Kalen sent. The safe house was in the industrial sector, a massive, half-collapsed warehouse filled with the smell of oil and dust. Ethan carried the unconscious girl inside. Kalen was already there, standing in the shadows. His medical bag rested on a table beside a dim lantern. "You made it," Kalen said with a faint smile. But there was no warmth in it. He stepped closer, his eyes flicking to the secure case in Ethan's hand. "You found the toxin sample." Ethan nodded slowly. "And the data to prove who's behind it." Kellen's smile widened just slightly. "Good. Very good." Then it happened. Kellen's hand moved to his coat, and Ethan saw the glint of a small pulse pistol. "Hand it over, Ethan," Kalen said, his voice cold now. "You've done your part. The rest is none of your concern." Ethan's muscles tensed. "You were the one who set this up." Kalen tilted his head. "Not entirely. I'm just making sure it ends the way it's supposed to. Her death will trigger a war, and in the chaos, certain people, including me, will rise to power." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You used me to get the data." Kalen shrugged. "And you made it easy. Your immunity let you go where no one else could. I should thank you." A sudden cough escaped the girl as she stirred. Her eyes opened just enough to see Kalen. "You betrayed us," she whispered. Kellen's expression hardened. "Don't waste your last breath on accusations." Ethan shifted his stance, calculating the distance between them. The air felt heavy, the only sound the faint buzz of the lantern. Then, with one sharp motion, Ethan tossed the secure case onto the far side of the room. Kellen's eyes followed it for a fraction of a second, enough for Ethan to move. He lunged forward, grabbing Kellen's pistol hand and twisting it away. The shot fired into the ceiling, showering sparks. Kalen struggled, but Ethan slammed him against the table. The medical bag spilled open, revealing vials of the same neurotoxin and a sealed injector. Kalen snarled, "You think you can save her? You don't even know the full truth." Before Ethan could press him, the distant whine of approaching engines filled the air. More were coming, and likely for both of them. Ethan knocked Kalen unconscious with a hard strike, grabbed the secure case, and lifted the girl back into his arms. His breath was heavy, but his mind was sharper than ever. Betrayal had just made everything more dangerous, but it also made one thing clear: he could trust no one but himself. Outside, the lights of patrol crafts swept across the industrial sector. Searching for them, Ethan slipped into the shadows, determined to finish what he started. The final dose. The storm rolled in over Velora Prime, lightning flashing across the sky as Ethan raced toward the orbital lift once more. He had no time for caution now. Kellen's betrayal had stolen precious hours, and the alien girl's breathing was weaker with every step he took. The blue veins along her neck were spreading fast. glowing faintly under the skin, a sign that the toxin was reaching its final stage. The base of the orbital lift loomed ahead like a tower built by the gods. Its beam of light tore through the storm clouds, reaching into the stars where orbital station K7 waited. The hum of its engines resonated through the ground. Ethan joined a small cargo transport heading up, blending in with workers hauling supplies inside the lift capsule. The air was tense. Workers muttered quietly to each other, glancing at Ethan and the unconscious girl in his arms. A few recognized her, their eyes widening, but no one spoke. The ride to the station felt endless. The hum of the lift vibrating in his bones, outside the glass walls. Valora Prime shrank away until it was a swirl of lights far below. The doors opened into the station's docking bay. Bright white lights flooded the metal floors, and the air smelled sterile and cold. Ethan kept his head down, weaving through crowds of engineers and guards until he reached the restricted medical wing. A heavy blast door blocked the way, guarded by 2 armed soldiers in black armor. He needed a distraction. A service robot rolled past carrying crates, and Ethan stepped into its path, letting it slam into him. The crates clattered to the floor, spilling tools and equipment. The guards turned to shout, and in that second, Ethan slipped behind them. Pressing a stolen clearance card against the scanner, the blast door hissed open, and he vanished inside. The medical wing was eerily silent. Rows of sealed cabinets lined the walls, each holding dangerous pathogens and rare antidotes. Ethan scanned the labels until he found it. Antidote VX-47. A single silver vial locked behind a biometric safe. He smashed the casing with his plasma tool, alarms blaring instantly. Red lights flashed, and a voice announced, "Containment breach, lockdown initiated." Ethan ignored it, pulling the vial free. The girl's breathing was shallow now, her lips pale. He laid her on a nearby medical table, quickly attaching the injector. His hands trembled as he loaded the antidote. If this failed, she would be gone in seconds. The moment the antidote entered her bloodstream, her body jerked, her eyes fluttered open for a split second, and she gasped sharply, color slowly returning to her skin. Relief washed over Ethan. But it was short-lived. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway, growing louder. Armed soldiers poured into the medical wing, weapons raised. Ethan grabbed the vial casing and secured it in his bag, then lifted the girl into his arms again. Plasma bolts burned through the walls as he dashed toward the maintenance hatch at the far side of the room. He kicked it open, ducking into a narrow service tunnel that ran along the station's outer shell. The tunnel was narrow and cold, the curve of the station visible through thin glass panels to his right. Below him stretched the black void of space dotted with distant stars. One wrong step and they would be lost forever. Behind him, the soldiers' shouts grew fainter, but the sound of a deeper, more ominous alarm filled the air. A voice crackled over the station's speakers. Self-destruct sequence activated. 3 minutes to detonation. Ethan's heart pounded. Kellen's betrayal had one final consequence. The traitor had set the station to destroy itself, wiping all evidence, including them. He pushed harder, sprinting through the tunnel until he reached an escape pod dock. The hatch opened with a hiss, revealing a cramped pod barely big enough for 2. He strapped the girl in, her breathing steady now but her eyes still closed. Then he launched the pod, the sudden force pressing them back in their seats. Through the small viewport, Ethan watched as orbital station K7 erupted in a massive fireball. Pieces of burning debris tumbled into the void. The pod spun briefly before stabilizing, leaving only silence and the distant glow of Valora Prime below. Ethan looked at the girl, alive, but still fragile, and whispered to himself, "You're safe for now." But deep down, he knew the real danger had only begun. The aftermath of the escape pod drifted through the void, the hum of its small engines the only sound. Ethan sat strapped in, his eyes fixed on the alien girl beside him. Her breathing was steady now, her skin returning to its natural pale blue with silver patterns. The faint glow of the toxin's mark had faded, replaced by a quiet calm. Beyond the viewport, the Laura Prime grew larger as they descended toward the planet. The sunlight caught the edges of the oceans, turning them into bands of gold and sapphire. Ethan's reflection stared back at him from the glass, his face tired, eyes shadowed, yet unbroken. When the pod entered the upper atmosphere, the comm system crackled to life. News broadcasts flooded the channel. The destruction of Orbital Station K7 had already spread across the galaxy. Rumors clashed with truth. Some said it was an accident, others claimed it was the start of a war. The one fact no one could deny was that the daughter of a high-ranking alien diplomat had survived an assassination attempt. The pod landed with a heavy thud on the outskirts of the alien capital. Dust swirled in the air as the hatch opened. Dozens of guards surrounded the pod, weapons raised. But the moment Lyra stepped out, weak but standing, the air shifted. The guards lowered their weapons, some even bowing. A tall figure emerged from the crowd, her father. His usually stern face cracked for a moment as relief softened his eyes. He reached for his daughter, holding her close, over her shoulder, his gaze locked on Ethan, studying the human as if trying to read his soul. "You saved her life," the diplomat said in a deep voice. "And by doing so, you may have saved our worlds from tearing each other apart." Ethan only nodded, unsure what to say. But the reunion was brief. The diplomat's tone turned heavy. "You must understand. The ones behind this will not stop. They failed this time, but they will try again. And now, they know who you are." Ethan felt the weight of those words settle on him. He thought of the files he had seen in the lab, the human immunity experiments, the hints that someone had been watching his bloodline for decades. He thought of Kellen's betrayal, the drones, the station's destruction. It was all connected, and it was far from over. Lyra stepped forward, her voice still soft but steady. "You could leave, Ethan. You've done more than anyone could ask. No one would blame you." He looked at her, then at the city skyline. Beyond, the lights shimmered under the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, in the shadows, the people who had started this were still moving their pieces, planning their next strike. Ethan's lips curved into a faint, tired smile. "If they're still coming, then I'm still here." The diplomat studied him for a moment longer, then gave a single nod. A silent understanding passed between them, not of friendship, but of shared purpose. As the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the Laura Prime, Ethan walked beside Lyra toward the capital. The streets were alive with noise and light, but under it all, he could feel the tension. The quiet before another storm. Far above, in the blackness of space, an unmarked ship drifted. Silently, inside, unseen eyes watched their every move, recording, analyzing, waiting. The game was not over, it had only just begun.